Salah is returning to Roma. The club has agreed to be led by Real Madrid. The contract with the Royal Club has already been signed. Kane's transfer for euros 250 million. Kane have commented on the striker's future. Tottenham are appointing a current player as head coach. How reasonable is this decision by the management? All this and much more in today's episode. Good day, friends. Don't forget to like, hit the bell and subscribe. Already did. Well then, let's get started. Tottenham have sacked their third manager in a year. The Spurs officially announced on their website the resignation of Igor Tudor from his position. We confirm that, by mutual agreement, head coach Igor Tudor is leaving the club. Tomislav Rogic and Ricardo Rignac have also stepped down from their roles as goalkeeping coach and fitness coach respectively. We thank Igor, Tomislav, and Ricardo for their efforts over the past 6 weeks, during which they worked tirelessly. We also express our condolences to Igor on the loss of a loved one and offer our support to him and his family during this difficult time. Information about the new head coach will be provided soon. Tottenham's official account reported. Tudor's statistics at Spurs are, in a way, quite striking. In 44 days, he managed to win only one match. In total, he led the team in 7 games and secured just a single victory. Things clearly didn't work out for Tudor at Tottenham. However, from the very beginning, this appointment seemed like a controversial decision, and we talked about it in our previous episode when the club first announced it. It's not entirely clear how Tudor could have helped this team. It feels like the management simply needed to patch things up after Thomas Frank's departure, and they did so without much analysis, or perhaps on at all. In general, there's not much to add about Tudor's dismissal, except that it was bound to happen. Now let's talk. First of all, according to T-League, Spurs are considering one of their current players as the new head coach. Yes, you heard that right. A player from the current squad could become the team's coach, and we're talking about Ben Davies. It's important to know that he hasn't been on the pitch for a long time due to injury, so the management is seriously considering him as a candidate for the head coach position until the end of the season. The source emphasizes that Davies is one of the most respected players in the squad, and Tottenham's bosses believe that other players will listen to him more than anyone else. This, in theory, should help improve the team's performances. We also want to remind you that Spurs are just one step away from the relegation zone in the Premier League. A few more failed matches, and the club could actually drop to a lower division. Can Davies prevent that? We don't have an answer. His appointment, just like Tudor's, seems like a very controversial decision, though in different ways. But from an observational standpoint, why not? The club has already tried multiple options and gone to 3 head coaches, so why not give a chance to someone who knows the club inside out? Player. Write in the comments what you think about this. We're really interested in hearing your opinion. However, there is also a more traditional option. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Spurs are at an advanced stage of negotiations with Roberto De Zerbi, who is currently without a job. For those who may have missed it, the Italian recently left Marseille, where he had been working. According to Romano, Tottenham are ready to offer De Zerbi a long-term contract right now. Journalist Ben Jacobs also reports that Spurs are prepared to include a significant signing bonus along with the long-term deal to make the decision easier for the Italian. Overall, Roberto would be a good. He has extensive experience in the Premier League, and he has also proven himself well in other leagues. The question is how interesting this move would be for De Zerbi himself, considering that in the summer there will definitely be strong demand for him, and he will likely find a club with far fewer problems than Spurs. It could be a team playing in European competitions, which clearly won't be the case for Tottenham next season. Moreover, what happens if they get relegated from the Premier League? That possibility can't be ruled out either, and in that case, De Zerbi would have to start the new season in the Championship. Not the most appealing prospects agree in that scenario. The signing bonus mentioned in the media would have to be very large. But once again, De Zerbi would still be a good option for Tottenham. Mohamed Salah could return to Italian side Roma. This is the headline from Italy's leading sports outlet. Gazzetta dello Sport. Reportedly, the deal would be for 1 season, most likely with an option to extend. Although the source doesn't specify this, it would simply be unwise to sign a player like him for just 1 season without the possibility of keeping him longer. It seems likely that Roma are also considering this. Salah has already played for the Roman club before and performed well. It was from there that Liverpool signed him. However, in this case, Roma would have to spend heavily on his wages. For context, Salah currently earns around €48 per week. Roma are nowhere near capable of paying such a salary, and in reality, the Egyptian himself surely understands that if he wants to stay in Europe, he can no longer expect anything close to what he earns at Liverpool. The question is whether that suits him, especially considering that clubs from Saudi Arabia are ready to meet all his demands and even more. If we talk about European leagues, Italy's Serie A probably suits Salah better than most others. Whether Roma is the best option among them is another question. But Italy is definitely a good place for Mohamed to continue his career. Although with all due respect to Roma, there are more stable options within the league. Meanwhile, Liverpool are thinking about who could replace Salah. The responsibility on that player would be huge, so the club needs to approach the decision very carefully and consider as many factors as possible. I'm a big fan of Semiravil. He is simply outstanding in one-on-one situations and hungry for victories. He has been a ray of light in a team fighting for survival. Over the course of the season, he has only improved, said Steven Gerrard, who believes that Christoph Semiravil could be an excellent replacement for Salah at Liverpool. According to Transfermarkt, the player is valued at euros 30 million. It's worth noting that the Dutchman has seen a significant rise in value recently. Meanwhile, Jürgen Klopp, former Liverpool manager, advised the club to consider Ian Diamond, who plays for RB Leipzig. However, it would be much more expensive. The Ivorian's market value is around euros 75 million. Recently, the media reported that Leipzig would only consider selling him for euros 100 million. However, could this really be a problem for Liverpool when we're talking about replacing such an outstanding player as Mohamed Salah? It almost feels like, in this case, euros 100 million isn't an issue at all. Right now, all players, including many of those mentioned, are with their national teams, and you can add even more excitement to matches featuring them thanks to our reliable partners, whose link is in the pinned comment. They are known for their speed, reliability, bonuses, sponsor Serie and other leagues, and are our character involved in a sports. Since Klopp's name has come up, let's talk about him a bit more. French journalist Francois Galido reported that Jürgen Klopp will become the head coach of Real Madrid starting this summer. Moreover, according to him, this will happen regardless of any circumstances, no matter how Alvaro Arbeloa performs. Even if he manages to win all trophies, he will have no chance of staying as head coach next season, as the decision was allegedly made back in December and Klopp's contract has supposedly already been signed. To be honest, these back-and-forth rumors are getting tiring. First yes, then no, and now yes again. Klopp himself sometimes says he doesn't know what will happen next, and at other times claims that the media is making everything up and shouldn't be trusted. In short, the only clear thing is that nothing is clear. We won't go over again why Klopp would be a good fit for Real Madrid. This has already been discussed in detail in our previous episodes. We simply want to keep you updated with the latest information, especially since the journalist's statement is quite definitive. Galido is firmly convinced that Klopp will be at Rio next season. That's the only reason we decided to share this news with you. Now let's move on to the next news segment. Trust us, we still have plenty of interesting things to tell you. Bayern board member Uli Hoeneß spoke about Harry Kane's future at the club. Let us remind you that there has been a lot of talk that this could be his final year in Germany, as his contract includes a release clause at a relatively affordable price. At the same time, Bayern have doubts about extending his contract due to his age and high salary demands. Here's what Hoeneß said as the summer transfer window approaches and Kane's release clause is about to become active. He will not use the release clause, which means he is definitely tied to the club until the summer of 2027. From what I hear, he and his family feel very comfortable here. But you never know when a Saudi club might come in with a big offer. Kane feels at home here. Harry can continue performing at this level for at least another 3-4 years because he is a true professional who takes care of his body. He constantly undergoes recovery and works with a physiotherapist. Honus also stated that if Bayern were ever to consider selling Kane, they would not let him go cheaply. Here's how he is priced. If we look at the price-to-quality ratio, I would say euros 150 million. But when you see that Alexander Isak cost euros 150 million, then if he is valued at euros 150 million, he should be worth. To be fair, euros 50 million seems far too low for a player of his quality. Perhaps Barcelona should consider including one of their own players in the deal. That could make Inter more willing to negotiate. One name that immediately comes to mind is Ronald Araujo. However, whether the Italian club's management would accept such a deal, considering the Uruguayan defender's background, is another question. That's all for today. See you tomorrow. Good luck to everyone. Yes, Isak's transfer definitely made a lot of noise and, in a way, broke the market standards. In that sense, Honus has a point. If euros 150 million was paid for Isak, then Kane should cost even more. However, Liverpool's spending in this case seems more like a mistake rather than a logical benchmark for pricing. Honestly, if Bayern were offered euros 150 million for Kane right now, it's very likely they would accept, but such an offer is unlikely to come. At the same time, selling a striker like Kane for around euros 70 million, considering his market value is about euros 65 million, makes no sense. So for Bayern, it would be wiser to focus on keeping him at the club as long as possible. His contribution would be far more valuable than the relatively modest transfer fee they might receive from selling him. Let us remind you that earlier the media reported that Chelsea were interested in Kane. There were also many discussions about his possible return to Tottenham. However, it's unlikely that Harry is seriously considering this option right now. Playing in the Championship is clearly not his dream, and Tottenham could realistically end up there after this season. Former Barcelona president Josep Maria Bartomeu, remember him, has confirmed the words of Zerbi, who recently stated that Messi did not leave the club due to a lack of money. If the new management had taken the necessary steps, extending Leo Messi's contract and signing new players would have been entirely possible. The blame does not lie with my legacy, but with the financial fair play rules, as the new management increased the losses to euros 585 million. When the league saw this figure, it decided to conduct a new audit and determined that the real losses amounted to euros 203 million. Barcelona chose to maintain its proposal. The league approved it, but as a result, the club lost the ability to comply with financial fair play rules, which has still not been restored. So, if Barcelona really wanted to renew Messi's contract, they could have done so, at least if Bartomeu is to be believed. Earlier, former Barcelona coach Zerbi also stated that Messi's departure was actually the decision of the current club president, Joan Laporta, and had nothing to do with finances. According to him, the financial explanation was merely a cover story, and not the true reason behind Leo's exit. Continuing with Barcelona news, more and more media outlets are reporting that the club has made progress in negotiations for Alessandro Bastoni. Reportedly, the player is eager to take on this challenge, and Inter have accepted that they may not be able to keep him. The Italian's contract is gradually approaching its end, so it would be better to resolve the situation in advance. At the moment, the clubs are negotiating the transfer fee. Earlier reports suggested that Barcelona want to sign Bastoni for euros 50 million, while his market value is around euros 80 million. Naturally, Inter are not satisfied with such an offer, so negotiations are